Hey everyone! Today we are going to complain about grading, and we are going to break out the little USB microscope for some fun. I'm going to start by briefly revisiting the 58 Tops Orlando Cepeda from the last video, the color added card. As closely as I inspected the front, I really should have done a better job inspecting the back, because even though it looks fine, other than the obvious mark right there, there is, that glare is terrible, sorry about that, there is the tiniest little spot right here. I happened to be checking out the card again after the last video and really inspected that spot just for the heck of it, and I still don't quite know what to make of it, but we're going to go to the USB microscope real quick and I'll show you what it looks like under magnification, and that could very well be what they meant by color added, even though just like the stray mark here, this little dot thing clearly is not an attempt to cover up ink or paper loss or anything, so I still don't know why they would call it color added as opposed to just a mark, but let's go over the microscope and I'll show you what I mean. Alright, here we are. We've got the 58 Tops Orlando Cepeda Authentic Color Added. I'm going to flip this over to the back. There's our stray mark, and that little pip or whatever it is, little spot that I was talking about earlier, there it is. Yeah, isn't that weird looking? It clearly is not an attempt to hide anything, right? It looks metallic, and it's easier for me to see that in, this is a little cheap USB microscope from Amazon for, I don't know, 20 bucks or whatever you get them for. Super useful. I have a nicer stereoscopic microscope that I use for, when it really matters. And under that it's a little more obvious, but this is very metallic looking, which it just kind of adds to the mystery for me. Let's see if we can increase the zoom on this without screwing anything up too bad here. That maybe gives you a better idea, but yeah, what the heck is it? I don't know. Under the stereoscope, you can tell that it's pushed in some, like this was dented by, you know what it looks like? It looks like one of those metallic silver colored pencils. Like one of those got pushed into the back of it a little bit. But yeah, that's that spot. So I'm really not sure whether this is what they're calling color added, or if it's this. And here's something interesting. Look at this. This mark is in the paper stock. I never noticed until right now, but those print dots are on top of it. This stray mark was not made after the card was produced. It was a flaw in the cardstock. How about that? So the previous SGC submission I did that I had mentioned was, again, through a group submission, and it was fine. I guess the process was fine. I feel like it went pretty smooth. I wasn't real happy with the results on several of the cards, and they were ones that I particularly cared about the grades more so than the others. As much as you tell yourself you don't care about the grades, you kind of do. I kind of do, at least. In a process like grading, sending your cards off to be graded, having someone else do the grading, having them send it back to you, I feel like the less people involved with that, the better. And I fully trust the people that I did the submission through, but sometimes things happen and you have to wonder where along the way did it break down. If I'm packaging up and submitting the cards myself, then if something gets screwed up because it was poorly packaged, then, well, it's my fault, and I can live with that. I would rather have myself to blame than someone else. I guess that's what it comes down to. So I had this Thurman Munson that I wanted slabbed because it was a fairly nice copy to me, and I'm not going to say it's not the same card that I submitted, but it doesn't seem to be in quite the same condition. Now, some of this I'm not going to be able to show on camera very easily, but there's a bend in the card right here. It's not a crease. It's like a Pringle, just the corners bent up, and if you turn it in the light, it's fairly obvious. And some of the corners here are kind of pushed up, and I really don't think they were before. Not a huge deal. I mean, it got a 3. That's not... If I thought there was any chance this card was getting a 3, I definitely would not have included it in the submission. That's an unfortunate thing that I wish I had taken better pictures of the cards before I sent them out. I took a picture of the cards just so that I could remember which cards I submitted. It's at the end of the day on me, and if it's going to be on me, then I would rather have it just be me involved through the whole process, if that makes sense. Kind of rambling there, but the submission was full of cards that got the grades that I fully expected them to. Primarily the cards that I knew were going to get 1s, 1.5s, maybe if I was lucky. 54 Topps Ted Williams. I knew this was getting a 1. It's worn. It has great left-right centering. But it's worn, has terrible vertical centering. It's got some pencil writing down here that seems to be period, if you will. The back's fairly clean, just worn. Fully expected a 1, and that's awesome. And my 52 Topps Hoyt Wilhelm with the paper loss on the front. The only reason that I was able to buy it. It's really nice other than that. But there was enough paper loss on the front and on the back that I would have been real surprised if this got anything other than a 1. So, cool. I like that. And this one, thanks to John Mangini's recent video, I now know that this is called a stamp back. This is my Koufax rookie that, great color, good centering, got some wear. But back in the day, the owner stamped and wrote initials on it. So therefore, it got a 1, and I completely expected that. Even though I think it's silly, I expected that it would get a 1. I have a beat-up Ernie Banks collection that I've talked about on here before. And I downgrade them when possible. It sounds weird, but the worse condition, the better. This one looks okay. It's got paper loss on the back. This one looks okay, but when you take it out of the case, like the front is almost completely delaminated from the back. This one's had the borders cut off. That one looks like that. And so on. You kind of get the idea. I recently found a worse 1954 for a good price. It's gloriously beat up. Love it. And I took the one that I had and promoted it to the Hall of Fame rookie card collection, and figured I would send it to be slabbed, since it's a 1, but it's not as much of a 1 as this one, So no surprise at all that this one got a 1. There's a few, a good handful of other normal size cards, but I'm going to switch over to the 2 oversized cards that I submitted along with this. And I was a little bit disappointed with this one, but I can deal with it. It doesn't bother me that much. This is the 1978, was it Family Fun Center? Yeah, Family Fun Centers from 1978. Regional issue, I guess. Ozzie Smith. So super cool, and gloriously ugly. I bought this one raw not all that long ago, and I mean, I was sure it was going to get a 6. I thought maybe it had a chance at a 7, although a few of the corners maybe were a little bit too worn, but it's also really hard to judge the centering vertically on this. It looks like it's maybe a little off center vertically. The back is nice. The only thing I don't like about these oversized slabs is that I don't yet have a good size of sleeve or bag to put them in. So I'm going to try to find something. U-Line and places like that sell the flap bags in various sizes. You just have to do all the measuring yourself and find something that hopefully will fit. I also got my Schuerholz team photo issue graded, and I don't know how it got a 6. If you had told me this would get a 6 before I sent it in, I would have said you were crazy. I mean, it's nice, other than the huge obvious flaw, but I mean, it's got these massive rubber band stains that look way worse in person than what you're seeing. And, they cause some slight indentation to the edges too. I don't get it. And it's not that bad in a vacuum, but then when you compare it to the Ozzie Smith that got a 5, I'm just confused. So there's not consistency for most of the grades. It's like if you look at them in a vacuum, most of the time you can kind of make them make sense. But once you get a sampling of them together, it's like they're not basing their grading on anything else. It's like, if that were my job, if I was grading cards, or let's say my actual job, let's say I'm estimating effort on a technical project, I triangulate. I look at other work I've done in the past and look at what it turned out to be, look at how it was estimated, and I use a sampling of that to inform my estimate for what I'm trying to put an estimate on. I don't understand why they don't seem to do the same thing at these grading companies. If you tell me they do, I'm not going to believe you, because they just don't. There's no way. I've got some other cards here that these ones weren't big surprises, but I'm going to use them to illustrate the inconsistencies I was just referring to with some other cards here. My Yaz rookie got a 3.5, which I really think this was undergraded. But again, in a vacuum, I guess I can kind of see it. Because as good as the corners look on the front, the wear is more obvious on the back. And it does have the black speckles that do plague copies of this card. It's difficult to find this card without those speckles, it seems like. A little bit disappointing, but, you know, not a big deal. This one was on I fully expected this one to get a 3. I thought to myself, this is a 3 all day long, because in spite of having great centering and decent corners, the entire surface is like it's got spots of the ink just scrubbed off. It's like the surface has just been worn a bunch. It's not just a faded, print. I don't think it's. We'll show you under the microscope later, but there's small sections of ink just missing, scattered across the whole thing. That makes it look snowy. I guess that's the best word for it. So not surprised at all, and I'm happy with that. My Harman Killebrew that I removed the tape from the corners, and it really isn't showing up very well on camera, at least from what I can see, but all of the corners have what look like shadows where the tape adhesive just kind of sunk into it and discolored a little bit, but it still presents very well. It has nice sharp corners. There's a spot on, right here, there's a dent in the surface from where someone had previously tried to remove the tape before giving up. And there is a tragic crease here going to kind of his eye that was 100% me. Against my better judgment, I put this in a top loader that was not an oversized top loader. And these oversized 50s cards will fit in them barely. But I was careless when I went to get it back out and ended up kind of pushing on the edges of the top loader a little bit to get the sides to buckle out so that I could get in there and help encourage it out. And I pushed a little too hard, and the entire card folded over a little bit and put that crease in it. And I was spitting mad at myself, that is for sure. So I feel like a 2 is well deserved on this card, even though it's got great eye appeal for a 2 until you turn it in the light and see the crease there at least. The back is very nice. Now here's where I start to fall off the turnip truck, I guess. Here's my 52 Topps Dick Williams that was in that same submission. And this card's a 1 all day long. I don't understand. It is Worn, worn, worn. The corners are worn, the edges are worn, the surface is worn. It doesn't have discoloration or anything on the back. There's no staining. I guess it's got that going for it. But I mean, for 52, the centering's not bad, but it's off center for sure. I don't know. This is a total mystery to me. There is just, I mean, to me, it's the same grade as this Banks. The centering is similar. The wear is almost identical. Maybe the Banks has a little more wear, but man, this ain't a 2. There's a couple more 2s here. Let's switch this up and look at one that I was kind of hoping it would get a 3, but I'm really not surprised it got a 2. It's the Bob Gibson rookie card. It's one of my favorite cards of all time. I want to upgrade this card to one with better centering for sure, but for now, even off center, I love it. This card is got some corner wear, clearly very off center. The color's great. It's got a crease right here, about quarter-inch long going in here, and then all across the corner there. Technically 2 creases. Okay. You tell me then how this Ryan also got a 2. Now, this is definitely worse centering than the Gibson, but there is just not anywhere close to the same level of wear, and there are no creases or wrinkles of any kind on this card. This card's only real issue is the centering. To me, if this card was reasonably well centered, like 60-40 or so, to me, this card's a 5 to a 6 all day long. I just don't see how it gets knocked down to a 2. I really expected a 3 on this, and I still feel like it deserves a 3. Maybe they have some sort of cap where if it's off center by a certain amount, it can't get beyond a certain grade. And maybe they have some rule like that, but if they do, that's another thing that doesn't make any sense to me. Kind of like the stray marks. I don't like the way they handle the stray marks sometimes. I don't like the way they handle stamp backs, but I get it. You know, they got a set of rules that they follow. I just would like a little more consistency with them. You've seen some 2s and some 3s and some 1s. I would say that as disappointing as the Ryan rookie was, still, I'm not all that salty about it. I'm going to show you a couple of cards now that I'm still pretty salty about. And this one is my Minoso rookie. That's a 2.5, as you can see. And once again, there is just no way this is a 2.5. I think this is criminally undergraded. Find flaws. There's a tiny, tiny little shadow that I guess you could call a stain right there. If you look under the microscope, which we will in a minute, There's a little bit of chipping along the edges, but I mean, for the most part, not due to wear, just because these cards were cut with um, dull blades a lot of the time back then, so they got the the jagged edges along them and everything. And that these have a clay coating on them, the cardstock that they used, and that clay coating is very susceptible to chipping along where the edges are cut, unless the blade is very, very sharp. Blade or wire, as they used sometimes, I guess. The centering, again, it's not perfect, but for 52 tops, this centering is pretty good. So the flaw, and I know exactly why they dinged it, is right here. That little white spot right there on his shoulder, that's some of the ink got pulled off right there. That's it. This thing that almost looks like it just came out of a pack, because of that, got a 2.5. I had a feeling they were going to hit it pretty hard for that, but I still fully expected a 4. I don't get it. We will take a look at that under the microscope in a moment to do some triangulation, if you will. But before we do that, I'm going to show you another couple cards graded just on either side of that I'm not especially happy about. One more so than the other. So this is a 2. And I'm a little more okay with this one, I guess. I still feel like it's undergraded, but it makes a little more sense to me than the other one I'm going to show you last. So, is this a 1 or 02? 1901 Ogden's cigarettes, W.G. Grace. These are beautiful black bordered cards. They have a rather ordinary back. There's just some information there, and it's still shock white. There's no discoloration. This one might have a couple of small spots of discoloration on this one, but I mean, this is a nice card. We're going to look at this one under the microscope as well. They gave it a 2, and I feel like they really didn't like something about it. Here's the one that I really scratch my head over. This one, to me, this is right up there with that Minoso. This one and the Minoso are the two ones that really irk me. This is the 1902 Ogden's cigarettes. There's a different series. So this is Series D. The one I just showed you was, it's interesting, they don't put the series on the label on this one, but this is Series A that I showed you first, and this is Series D. W.G. Grace, again, he was in both of those series. They decided that this needed to be a 3, and man, I just don't see it. I do not see it. This is not only far less wear than the other one, but there's really almost none. There's a little touch on the corner, little touch on the corner. The back is even better than the other one. There's not even a spot of discoloration on this. For cigarette cards, I mean, this is bananas condition. I thought they were going to be rough on it, and I thought it was going to be at least a 5. I was hoping for even higher than that. I thought this was going to be up towards the top of the census for the card. And I mean, it's off center, right? Top to bottom. But come on, this just isn't a 3. Let's head over to the microscope and continue bitching. Here we are now with the 52 Tops Mini Minoso 2.5. And this shows you what I meant about the clay chipping. Let me just turn this a little bit. So look right along here, see the difference in color between the white clay coating and these chipped spots? If you ever have a card you think is in really nice shape, put it under a microscope and prepare to be amazed. There's some pretty good chipping along here. Going all along all of the edges here. There's a corner that looks sharp to the eye, and when you look under magnification, there's some chipping of the clay on top of it. The corner itself is sharp in profile, but the very top surface of it on the coating has a little bit of damage. And again, that could be any combination of wear or just where it chipped off during cutting. There's not an obvious, it's not obvious to me which is mostly responsible there. Could be a little bit of wear perhaps. And similar on this corner. This corner has a, let me see if I can sharpen that up at all. No, I guess not. So this is maybe not quite as sharp in profile as the other one. But again, to the naked eye, this looks like a good sharp corner. Under magnification, you can see the slightest bit of chipping. And down on the shoulder, if I can find it, there is the main flaw. This is that spot on the shoulder that I was pointing at. And as you can see, it's just this tiny little spot of not even paper loss. I mean, it's the paper is all intact. It's the ink. The ink got pulled off right there by something. Probably had a brief touch with something adhesive. And I don't know exactly how big it measures, but the thickness of this screwdriver blade here is 20 thousandths of an inch in diameter, just to give you an idea. So this is, we're talking about a pretty small spot. It's noticeable with the naked eye, for sure. I mean, yeah, this apparently is a 2.5. Let's look at a 3, shall we? So this is 1963 Tops Pete Rose in a 3. And this is a beautiful card, except for the centering to the naked eye. But take a look at what we got going on for the corners. Again, sharp in profile, but clearly got some surface damage. Same. And I mean, this one, we've got lots of chipping that's following the edge down. And this is even worse corner by far. And yet again. Now the 63s are tough around the blue because it does show the chipping so badly. So it's pretty nice along the top. A little bit. You can, even when you get into the interior of the blue, there's still some spots. And the surface of this card is so far to me worse than what we were just looking at on the Minoso. And now here's the real kicker. Down here, let me see if I can get some light on it. Do you see it? There's a crease that runs across the entire corner. It hasn't broken the color, but it's a crease for sure. So this very off-centered copy with a large non-color breaking crease and corner chipping that's far worse than we were just looking at on the Minoso somehow is a 3. Now here's some extra hilarious stuff. We don't even need the microscope for this. I mean, you guys remember the Dick Williams. We got a 2. I mean, we all know this shouldn't have been a 2, but like this card somehow is half a grade lower than the Minoso we were just looking at. And this is, you look all over this card and just the surface wear where all of these spots of ink are just gone. All over the card, all over it. The surface is horrible on this one. It's a great card, I love it, but the surface is horrible. Here's the Reggie Jackson we were looking at. So the Jackson's got the entire surface covered with ink loss. It's snowing. And the corners are nice. That's the worst one, I think, right there. So this is a good comparison to me because, in my opinion, this Jackson is the same as the Minoso if you took the surface flaws away from the Minoso and took the surface flaws away from the Jackson. So then we're faced with Which is worse? The Jackson, where the entire surface is just snowed out because there's so much in the way of ink spots missing, or the Minoso, this gorgeous over the entire surface except for that one little spot in his shoulder. And they think that the Jackson is half a grade higher than that. I don't get it. Let's take a look at those Ogden's cigarette cards here. So this is the 1901 from Series A. 2. There we go. This is really difficult to see the difference between the edge of the card and the black insert they put in the case. But suffice it to say, if you can't really see the difference, that means there's no chipping on the edge, because you'd see the white, like right there. And she's got some corner wear for sure, and this bottom edge is certainly not the greatest. I mean, I feel like they were tough on that one. But now, if we look at the 1902, we got the 3. Here's one corner. Another corner. Another. I think what we have here is a surface flaw. See that little dent? Here's the last corner. There he is. This is a stellar example of the card. And I'm not a big fan of the whole crack and resubmit thing. But this Minoso and this Grace right here, I think I'm gonna have to do it. Look, I know my card collection is awesome. I love it. I realize how lucky I am to be able to have a lot of the cards that I do. So I don't want this to come off like a negative video. It's just, with an engineering mindset, I see the inconsistencies in grading that seems like such a solvable problem to me, and it aggravates me like to my core. So I fixate on it sometimes when I see cards come back in different batches, or even worse, in the same batch, where there's just such stark inconsistency. It's just something I had to get out of my system, I guess. All right, before we wrap up, I will show you a few more comics with baseball covers that I picked up since the last time I showed them. I picked up some other comics too, but they're not baseball related, so I guess we won't get into those at the moment. Most of them are up on the wall, so let me get you guys turned around. This is Popular Comics with a Felix the Cat cover. Cool baseball theme. This is from 1947. And we've got Sparkle Comics from 1951 with Nancy and Sluggo. Love that as well. And in the last video I showed a Donald Duck book from 1959 that was just trashed, so contaminated that it probably wasn't even safe to have around. So that's gone, and I found a much more presentable copy. A little later than what I usually go for, but I like that cover. I couldn't pass it up. But the biggest one is I got my World's Finest number 15. This is the one with, obviously, Superman, Batman, and Robin playing baseball on the front cover, which I love. It's a 5.5. This is from 1944. The cover looks pretty dirty. I feel like a clean and press might help it, but I'm really not going to mess with it, I don't think. Alright, I spent a lot longer complaining about my SGC grades from last time than I planned on, so I think we'll cut it there for now. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.